Well, earlier today, Oklahoma and Texas officially announced they were going to be leaving the Big 12, with many expecting them to join the SEC. That now leaves the question around what the other conferences are going to do. Will the Big 10 sit back and see if other conferences expand? Will the Big 12 be poached by other conferences, causing them to disband? As of now, there are more questions than answers, and we will have to sit back and wait and see. Today, I want to talk about why I think Kansas and the Big 10 would make perfect sense. Before we get into this, apparently 95% of you are not subscribed to the channel, so please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not already. It really helps the channel out and I'd really appreciate it. Now let's talk about Kansas and the Big 10. Now a little history lesson. Kansas first joined Kansas Intercollegiate Athletic Association in 1890 before joining the Western Interstate University Football Association in 1892. In 1898, they became an independent before finally joining the Missouri Valley Intercollegiate Athletic Association in 1907. The MVIA split in 1928 with Kansas, Iowa State, Kansas State, Missouri, Nebraska, and Oklahoma forming the Big Six, and Drake, Grinnell, Washington University of St. Louis, and Oklahoma A&M forming the Missouri Valley Conference. Eventually, the Big Six would turn into the Big Seven, and later the Big Eight. In the 1990s, the Southwest Conferences Baylor, Texas, Texas A&M, and Texas Tech and the Big Eight would form the Big 12 as a financial benefit when it came to television deals. Kansas won 4 conference championships, 3 of which were shared as a member of the Big Eight in 1930, 1946, 1947, and 1968. Since the formation of the Big 12, Kansas has one shared division title, which they won back in 2007 during their magical 12-1 season. Now, with Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12, the future of the conference is up in the air, and with other possible conferences looking to expand due to their location and academics, the Big 10 looks like a perfect fit. Although they are not a historically great football program, they have had time periods where they have been successful. Along with that, they make geographical sense when it comes to joining a new conference. The farthest they would have to travel is to Rutgers, which is 1,200 miles away, but they would only be doing that every few years because they would be playing in the West. They are 600 miles from Northwestern, 500 miles away from Wisconsin and Minnesota, 400 miles away from Illinois, 350 miles from Iowa, and 200 miles from Nebraska. Compared to that, if they join the Pac-12, as of now, the closest school is Colorado, who is 600 miles away. You also get to renew the Nebraska-Kansas rivalry across all sports. The football team does have a long rebuild ahead of them, but they did just hire Lance Leipold, who does have Midwestern roots. When it comes to the Big 10 Conference, academics are extremely important. The Big 10 takes pride in their schools being a part of the Association of American Universities, aka the AAU, which is an organization of American universities devoted to maintaining a strong system of academic research and education. While Nebraska is not part of the AAU, when they joined the conference, they were a part of it. Kansas, Iowa State, and Texas are the only Big 12 schools that are part of the AAU. With Texas probably going to the SEC, if the Big 10 were only looking to add Big 12 schools, by process of elimination, those schools would be Iowa State and Kansas. Along with that, Kansas has a fantastic basketball program. They have won multiple national championships, have played in 15 Final Fours, and they are one of 3 programs that have won more than 2,000 games. They're one of the premier blue bloods when it comes to college basketball. Could you imagine the matchups that would occur with the addition of Kansas? Kansas, Indiana, Kansas, Michigan, Kansas, Michigan State, Kansas, Ohio State, Kansas, Wisconsin, etc. You get the point. You know the addition of Kansas means packed arenas every night when it comes to basketball. When it comes to baseball, 13 of the 14 members of the Big 10 schools have a baseball team, and Kansas would be a nice addition to the league in that sense. They have been to the NCAA tournament 5 times and have won the College World Series once. Kansas even has a club hockey team that has had a resurgence in popularity. Those are some of the reasons I believe Kansas and the Big 10 make sense. I now want to welcome my friend Scott Fisher to share his thoughts on the situation. Over on Scott's channel, we talked about why Iowa State makes sense joining the Big 10, so make sure to check that video out after this.
Thank you, Jonathan, for letting me come on the channel, and today we are obviously going to be talking about what if Kansas goes to the Big 10. As of right now, everything in college football is absolutely crazy. We don't know what is true, and anything could change at any moment. But on paper, Kansas to the Big Ten actually isn't that bad of an idea. Since we are both college football YouTubers, you probably think we only watch that, but I'm also a big college basketball fan, and Kansas brings an element to the Big Ten that people aren't really talking about. While the football team has been atrocious ever since the 2008 season, they are starting from scratch, and we could see Lance Leipold potentially have some success there. At this point, all the divisions will be gone, and they'll likely battle it out with Illinois for the bottom feeder spot of the Big Ten, but I think it just makes more sense for Kansas to be there. I feel like Kansas can now focus on recruiting the Midwest a lot more, and they'll be playing in conditions that are more similar to them. While I never believe Kansas will be a great football school, Lance Leipold is a really good coach. He won multiple national titles at Wisconsin Whitewater, then eventually took the job at Buffalo, where he's made them one of the best teams in the MAC, had a superstar in Jarrett Patterson there last year, and has continued some of the success of that Bulls program. He reminds me a little bit of Bill Snyder, as he's going to completely change the culture around, do it brick by brick, work hard, and try to make a little bit of progress each day. But we really don't know what is happening. The biggest thing that Kansas would bring to the Big Ten is their basketball, as they are one of the biggest brands in the sport of college basketball, have won multiple national titles, and every single year they are one of the best teams. The Big Ten is arguably the best basketball conference, as every year they are super competitive, they send a ton of teams to the NCAA tournament, and there are a lot of storied programs there. Adding Kansas to the mix would only make the conference stronger, and have more entertaining games. As a Purdue fan myself, seeing the Jayhawks come into Mackey Arena once a year would be a sight to see. One thing I am worried about though is Bill Self is under investigation, and what if all of a sudden you accept Kansas into the Big Ten, but they get hit with a ton of sanctions, and since their football and baseball program don't bring a lot to the conference, they will just eat up a lot of money without doing a whole lot, which kind of reminds me of Rutgers. Overall, I'm excited to see what's going to happen with all of this, and while Kansas to the Big Ten does make geographical and basketball sense in terms of college football, I really wouldn't understand it. But right now, everything is speculation, and we'll have to wait and see. I want to say thank you to Jonathan for having me on the channel, and please be sure to subscribe to his channel.
Thanks, Scott. Again, make sure to check out the Iowa State video over on his channel. So why wouldn't Kansas be a good fit in the Big Ten? Well, their football program has not been historically great, so when you're fighting for as many spots as possible for the college football playoffs, the Jayhawks don't really add anything to your resume. Like Scott mentioned before, the basketball team could face NCAA violations, which could hurt them in the near future. Will Kansas look to stay with Kansas State? Because Kansas State probably won't get an invite to the Big Ten. Another interesting thing I want to mention is the fact that Big Ten has never brought in a team that doesn't have a wrestling team. According to an Oklahoma State fan site, wrestling is the third highest viewed sport in the Big Ten, and the popularity is rising. Kansas does not even have a wrestling team, which could open up the doors for teams like Oklahoma State. The question is, will the Big Ten value the title of AAU more than them having a wrestling team? It'll be interesting to watch for a conference like the Big Ten, whether they will compromise their reputation when it comes to academics if it means more television revenue. Because that will really be the deciding factor of who gets the 2 spots in the Big Ten. But what do you think? Is Kansas a perfect fit for the Big Ten? If not, who else should they consider? Thanks again to Scott for joining me. If you have not already, make sure to check his channel out. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out these other videos of mine. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.